this product, I got that. And this product, FigJam, has been out since about April. One cool thing since joining Figma, my role as a designer advocate is to, work in the community. I usually connect with like educators and students, but I also have the opportunity to kind of like work internally on some of the teams there. And one of the things I'm going to be talking about is just the sprints involved with the design sprints, kind of coming up with some of the main features for FigJam. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit share. I'm going to start an open session. If you have a Figma account, great. If you don't worry about it. So this open session will just kind of let you all join this document with me. I prefer my workshops to be a little bit more interactive. So, oops. Nope, that is the wrong copy. Boom, there we go. That's what I was trying to do. So let me make sure I copy the proper link. Copy that. All right, cool. Everybody is in here. I can see y'all piling in. That is fantastic. So if you're unfamiliar, you can navigate around this document by holding down the space bar. If you want to follow me directly, you can click on my face in that upper left-hand corner. Just so y'all know, Figma is free for educators and students. When you sign up, you verify, create an education team. You basically get all of the major professional features absolutely free as long as you're a student. So here, this is just my Twitter, my Instagram, and my TikTok. I am Professor Figma on TikTok. I'm going to walk you through a little bit about FigJam, and I'm going to talk about how some of these features actually came to be. So first things first, actually, I see some of y'all are triggering the high five. The high five is primarily what I'm going to be talking about today. So if you press and hold the H key, right, or you just kind of like wave your cursor left and right kind of violently, right? So we could see we can have some high fives here. So like, you go next to somebody else having a high five and we could just have like a little high five party, right? So the thing is these kind of features, right, they don't just kind of come about, they're just not default, right? These are things that we have to intentionally think about in the product. We have to think about why they're going to be there. We have to think about how they get implemented. And there's a lot that kind of it is evolved in that process. So I'm going to show you a few other things. If you go ahead and press the E key, right, you'll see this wheel. This is the emote wheel. So if I click that, I can drop some like, little heart-shaped eyes on everybody. If I press the E key again, I could drop little flames on it. Right? So like all of these features, right, they exist, and actually many of them came out of a 2-day sprint. FigJam, when it originally started, was just this dotted canvas where you can put some text, you could put some sticky notes, and you could draw a little bit with this like pen tool. There was no delightful toolbar. Cursor chat was not a thing. So if I hit the / and I say, hey, right, how's it going? If you are on an international keyboard, you can hit just right click and say cursor chat. And then whatever you type, others in the document will see along with you, right? So we doing it. So you could stamp your profile as well. If I press the E key, there's a stamp option, right? I could click like little hearts. And if you click and hold, right, it'll shake and get a little bit larger. So as I do that, it shakes and gets a little bit larger. So as we have established that, I'd like to get to know a little bit more about you all. I want to know, do you Figma? Do you sometimes use it? Are you brand new to Figma? You've never heard it before. You're just like, what are these syllables that this man is saying on this screen? Just let me know. So just drop your avatar, wherever it may be. So I'm actually going to put myself over here in the enthusiast category, given the fact that I work at Figma. Prior to Figma, I was a professor at the Rochester Institute of Technology, teaching new media design classes and interaction design classes, both to undergraduate and graduate students. So go ahead, kind of let me know. This is great. I love to see the interaction, and I feel like, we're a little bit closer in these times when we're actually, pretty far apart. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to press E key, and I'm just going to throw some like hearts on it again. All right, cool. So next up, I'm actually going to like kind of dart back and forth between a few sections in this document as we move through here. I can see some of y'all are having a little bit too much fun, but that's okay. All right, that's what it's meant for. So what I'm going to be talking about is the workshop that we actually ran for this, right? When we were coming up with FigJam, and I'm going to say we, I'm the tiniest little portion of that we, right? Like there's engineers, there's designers, there's project marketing managers, right? There's product managers that kind of all integrate with this experience. And many of these features that you see, so like the delightful toolbar that you see down at the bottom where you can drop shapes and stickies, right? A lot of this, is necessary, but then they also wanted people to have a good time, right? They're working together, they want to express personality. So this was the fundamental question that was asked, right? How would you define fun in tools and in products, right? What makes tools fun, delightful, human, or expressive to you? If you want to answer something, feel free to answer something. But what I want to say is that these two questions fundamentally charged the way that we approached FigJam. At the very beginning, there was a proof of concept, and so much of FigJam was actually made in FigJam. So Figma is a design collaborative tool. Many people were using Figma at the beginning of the pandemic to, kind of come together. They would make fun little experiments and games, and they would kind of have these experiences where they would be virtually together and kind of hanging out. So we wanted to begin to think about how would you define fun in tools? So actually, yeah, if anybody wants to go ahead, like how do you define something that's fun in a tool that you may use? If you want to, you could just press the S key and you could drop a sticky. And then when you select a sticky, if you hit Command Return, you can create another sticky. So how do you define fun? And this workshop that we ran, right? We actually were using the stickies. We were in FigJam. We were basically using the product as we were designing it, right? And we wanted to start to think about, well, what are the needs? What would be fun? What is fun, right? What is delightful? So I'm already starting to see some ideas being generated, right? So intuitive to use, ability to be creative, interactive, easy to use, laughing and smiling, right? So you would think like, okay, laughing and smiling, that is like default, but how do you actually begin to engage with somebody? How do you create or facilitate a space with which the laughing and smiling can take place in the same way that productivity can take place, right? So many companies are thinking about that productivity. Oftentimes, if you want to design something that's human, you have to be intentional about it, right? You need that intention. You need these questions. You need to bring those to the table. So right here, personable and relevant, communicating something the way that you made and feel and think, right? Feeling heard, communicating, having creative input, colors that catch the eye. You want to be in an environment that is supportive, maybe too, right? That could be delightful. How do you show your personality? Right? And these are things that, we were fundamentally thinking about. So when we were having this sprint, there would be a phase where we're just creating these stickies, right? And we start to sort them and start to think about them in ways in which they can be charged into actionable items, into, maybe features that might come about. So next, right after we would begin to kind of like brainstorm and think about that, we would start to think about how might we make collaborating in FigJam more fun, delightful, human, expressive. So in the first hand, right, we're just thinking about what makes tools fun, delightful, human, and expressive to you, right? How do you define fun in tools? But then we reframe that question and we start thinking about it in the context of our tool. So how might we make collaborating in FigJam more fun, delightful, human, expressive, And then we started thinking about some of the takeaways from that first brain dump, that first session where we're thinking about socially meaningful moments, right? How are you authentically collaborative? How do you make something that is like unique to your team? How do you have these sort of impressive feats or craft? What kind of delighters might you have with an interaction? And how do you feel proud about what you made or did together? This starts to bring on, questions that are a little bit harder to think about. So as I have that kind of like in your mindset, I would like you all to join me over here. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to kind of scroll over. I have tons of things in this document here. And I would like to take the moment to get to know everyone. Let's see how many people are on here. We got 44 people. So I'm going to make some more cards. So don't mind me. Let me make some of these additional cards to kind of like accommodate all of y'all that are here with me today. This is fantastic. Last workshop, I think I had like I don't know, like 60 people, but nobody was in front of a computer. So like I had to give a workshop to like people in an auditorium, and I'm like, all right, so we're gonna be in this document, and everyone's like, yo, we don't got no computers. So I'm just really thankful that at least some of you are here with me and are able to participate. Right. So we're having an experience. We're being together. Okay. So one cool thing about FigJam that we began to think about is like the interoperability between Figma. You can use Figma as a design tool, and likewise, you can design things that can be brought into FigJam. So you can design that experience, right? So you can make something more authentic to your team. So it has this extensibility, and that's something that we had to be very intentional about. So what these cards are is here, I'm going to find a card that somebody hasn't taken yet, and let's see and make sure that my computer doesn't completely disrupt. I don't have the fastest computer, so I apologize. So here I'm going to grab this card, and you can copy paste this card between Figma and FigJam. So those of you that are familiar with Figma, you can literally copy paste this right into a Figma doc and deconstruct it. It's using auto layout and probably some really poorly named layers, right? I didn't name my layers really well. So you'll probably open that up in Figma, look at my layers and laugh at me and be like, yo, Miguel, it says frame 45, frame 46, and frame 47. That doesn't really, give much instance of what you were trying to design there, but that's okay. I'm not really going to let that bother me. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to fill out these cards. I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to click on that little like photo icon that I have there, and I am going to add in a photo of myself. So I'm going to go to my documents, and I'm going to go ahead and grab, let's see, I have my assets folder, and then I have my profile photos. So I'm going to throw a little photo in there. Right, and I got my photo. There's me. That's what I look like. I think y'all probably know that by now, except without the hamburger backpack. So if you double click on this, right, you can customize this little card. And all it is, so I could just be like, Miggy, my pronouns, he, him. What is my hometown? I'm going to say Buffalo, New York. What is my favorite food? I like peanut butter. Peanut butter. I'll put peanut butter on anything. I'm just kind of weird like that. What is my favorite offline activity? I like to draw on coffee cups. If you look up Miguel Cardona on coffee cups, you'll find my sketch cups. I'll say I call them sketch cups. And you'll notice that as I type, it's kind of expanding that field a little bit because I'm using auto layout, which is a feature in Figma that carries over into FigJam, and that works out kind of great. That interoperability is key. So if you're having any difficulty, I do have the prompt up here and to the right that just explains how to customize your card. So another thing you could do is you can follow along, and you can introduce yourself to somebody else. You could just be like, hey, Natanya, and then I could drop in little sticker, and I'm gonna put in a little star. Bam. And Jonathan, you get a star. And Chris, you get a star. And Juan, you get a star. And Liz, you get a star. So what we're doing is we're introducing each other. Yeah, / If you hit / you can chat. Be like, hey, what's up? Right? We're just a bunch of strangers in a collaborative document, hanging out, introducing ourselves to one another. And then one other cool thing, if you want to change your color of your card, let's say you got situated on a card and you're like, yo, that's not really me. I'm more of a chartreuse. You can double click on that card. There's these 4 little diamonds that will show up at the top. And I'm going to go ahead and change that to yellow. I'm going to make it purple. So what that is it's making use of the variants feature in Figma. These are like just little cards, and they have multiple variants. Those variants carry through with it, and allows you to change that up. So hopefully y'all like that. Let's see. So we got San Jose, Vietnam, Redwood City, Sunnyvale, Amherst. I'm actually going to be in the Bay Area next week. Sorry I couldn't do this in person. Amsterdam, Netherlands, Los Gatos, California, New York, up in the house. I'm in Rochester, New York right now. Toronto, Ontario. Toronto, Ontario is basically like my hat, right? You're just north of me right now. I love going to Toronto. My favorite place there is Pai Tai. All right. So Roseville, California. All right, I'm seeing some good representation here. San Jose, Sunnyvale. Cool. It's nice to meet you all. All right, so those of you that are logged in, I'm actually going to drop you over here to the left. Let's just have like a little bit of fun. So if you want, you can leave a selfie here. These are called widgets. One cool aspect of Figma that we just, or FigJam that we just released are these things called widgets. So if I was to click on this, I think Elizabeth clicked on it too. A little camera will pop up and I can take a photo. And as long as you're logged in, you should be able to interact with that. But if you're using kind of like if you're like an anonymous or like just using the open session, you don't have the ability to mess with it. And we're working on that. That's going to be something that's going to come out. Also, if you're on Safari, it doesn't work so well. And or if you're using like, like a different, what is that? Wow, I look almost exactly the same. It's just like a different outfit. That's kind of ridiculous. So feel free to drop in a selfie. I'd like to see how y'all are doing. I know we got the photos up there, but this is like, it's like the true you, right? It's the you that's sitting behind the computer right now. So feel free to drop a little selfie. There we go. Ariel, nice to see ya. Yes, see, that's how you gotta do. She's doing it right, rocking like that Starbucks ice cold latte. All right, someone will just pop you over here. Aaron, it's great to see you. See, so these types of interactions are the things that we think about, and a lot of them are motivated by the way that we think about how people might work, but also how can we bring people together, in these virtual spaces? How can we delight them in a particular way? Kian is a designer at Figma. He actually worked on these. He worked on the high fives with me as well. And we're going to get into that, into a little bit about, how some of those features got visualized, pretty early on. So feel free to drop a few more selfies. I'm going to talk about that doodle wall in a moment, but let's move our way over here. So a widget is just kind of like a bit of code. Anybody can author a widget. So those of you that are developers out there, you can look up the FigJam API and develop your own widget, and then submit it for review. And then it's basically this object that can live on a FigJam document that anybody can interact with. So it's great. I love seeing the photos. Just keep on dropping in that selfie wall. I'm going to hop over here and let's get a little bit more in line to this talk. So, up here we were talking about those delighters, right? How might we make a collaborating in FigJam more fun, delightful, human, and expressive? And then after we started to collect some ideas, I wanted to share more of the ideas with you, but I can't because, they're proprietary. But the next thing that we kind of thought about, and the next phase of that sprint, is like, what would it look like if someone were to share it out? So we created these like little things that look like tweets, and you can fill them out, right? You can go ahead and duplicate it by holding down the option key, and you can drag it. And what we would do is we would double click, change the name. So I could put in like, Miggy from Figgy, Friggy, not Friggy, Figgy, Figgy. There we go. And what we would do is we would just draw, right? So we took about, 25, 35 minutes and started to visualize some of our ideas, right? And these are like just like two little ideas, like thinking about a secret handshake, right? That turned into the high five, calling people attention, right? Like what might those things kind of look like? And, we just drew them out with like the marker tool. So this kind of fast visualization, where we're thinking about, what would somebody be so enthralled by? How might they, share it on social? How might they market themselves? And I think that it's really important, sometimes to go through very stringent process as you're developing your ideas. But when you're developing a sprint, when you're kind of like working through some things quick, sometimes it helps to start at the end. Right. So think about how someone might showcase your feature, how someone might, really, share that out to other people. Like why might someone be so delighted, or if they just came across something and it was like a little hidden feature. Actually recently, it's pretty funny, there's this product called Loom. People use Loom to kind of record themselves, and within Loom there are these like little bits of confetti that'll shoot out with like a little secret key. And so many people would hit that key while they're in Figma that also have Loom installed that they thought the confetti was coming from Figma, because they assumed that we would kind of program something like that into our software, because we're kind of forward thinking about these like little delighters. So there's many different ways that people can find things delightful. And what we do as we, start to think about these features, we not only think about the experience of the feature, but what would be the experience if someone was to share it out. So how might somebody communicate that idea? How might someone educate someone else as to how to do the thing, right? So if you think about, yourselves at design school, you learn something cool and you want to share that with somebody else, right? What is that secret thing that feels special to you, and what makes you feel that way, right? When you come up with something new or you find a fun little shortcut, you find this fun little hack. And what we do is we try to synthesize what that feeling may be like, right? We think about it from that point. We start at the end. We develop, the conclusion of the story, and then we work our way backwards and start thinking of the other different ways to kind of like excel at that point. So things that I'm absolutely loving here are the way that you all are already, kind of intuitively dragging some of these things, making your little doodles, and are just kind of like, playing around like with each other, right? So I didn't give you too much instruction, but based off of a little bit of intuition, based off of like the tiniest little bit of instruction, you're all able to kind of get in here and start to work together with very little effort. And you can start to generate ideas. So many of these ideas, like I said, they start off as low effort and then they'll become a prototype. So one of the prototypes I had the fortune of working on was the high five. I actually developed some of the high fives, the animations for them using like After Effects and CSS transitions, and started to think that through. But more importantly, if you scroll down here, right, there's a lot more that digs into it. So once we start thinking about the interaction itself, and by the way, this is only a tiny fraction. This is probably the only little bit I can show, but there are these huge documents that begin to outline the thought behind the creation of such an interaction. What does it mean? How does the gesture work, right? And like, what is the logic behind it as you begin to develop that idea? So, what I wanted to show you here was just the way that, we might be thinking about a particular feature, right? How might we be more intentional about the experience of the feature? Think about it in the way that, we change our perspective. So having that share moment, we're kind of taking ourselves out of the equation. We're imagining our customer, we're imagining our user, we're imagining their experience, but not only the experience that they're having, but the experience that they want to share with others, right? So given the fact that we work on a collaborative platform, we need to be mindful of that it's not the solo experience, but it's the experience of communicating to other people. All right, so I'm gonna hop over here and let's check out that selfie wall. I'm gonna just drop some. Boom. I'm really happy for everybody who dropped a selfie. Each of y'all get a little heart. Oh, though that's me. Boom, 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 boom. All right, I actually have a doodle wall for you. I know that y'all were doodling over there, but let's see. So during this last portion, what are we at? We're at 2:25. I think I'm here for an hour. I can't quite tell. If somebody can confirm that for me, there's a chat. I've been ignoring this chat. So if somebody would just like to confirm for me, when the time goes, I just want to make sure that I am delegating this appropriately. So FigJam is actually a space where like a lot of work gets done. And by the way, like I said, if you have any questions for me, feel free to drop them over here. And or if you would like to see me kind of like demonstrate anything else. All right, cool. 45 to an hour as long as I want to go. I'm going to try to drag this out as much as I can. I'm having a good time. So let's see. I think I could give away some swag, and I think I could run like a little contest here. So I think that y'all might appreciate this. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to unlock some of these boards. So don't mind me. I'm just going to select some of these boards here. I'm going to unlock them. And I'm going to create some more boards because we actually have quite a few people here. And by the way, these boards are also using variants. So if you want to change the color of your board, just click on your board and you might have to unlock it. So if you click on it, there'll be a little lock. You can unlock it and you could change the color of your board to whatever you want. So if I go ahead, I click on this board, and I could change that up. So these boards can actually be found in the lower right-hand corner. You'll see these little diamonds in the delightful toolbar, and that's literally what we call it. We call it the delightful toolbar. And here you'll actually see a bunch of stickers. Many of these sticker packs we paid artists to create for us. But if you go ahead and look a little bit over here, there's a little clipboard. This is the agenda kit that I kind of put together. So it has some fun little secrets in here. So I'm actually going to grab a little card and I'm going to kind of move that up. And what I'm going to do before y'all draw, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a prompt and I'm going to run a timer and we're going to have a little contest and then we're going to have a little voting session. And with the voting session, we're going to determine some winners and I'm going to send out some swag because I think that you all are fantastic sports and are really engaged in this experience. So y'all having a good time? Y'all having an okay time? I feel like some of y'all having fun. Elizabeth over here is just like doing a great job. If you need to erase it, you can just select it and delete it. All right, cool. So what I am going to do is I'm gonna give y'all a prompt. This is my little Shiba Inu, by the way. I like this little Shiba. He's just like, yo, what up? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give y'all a prompt and I'm gonna have y'all draw it and I'm gonna give you 5 minutes on the timer. And that's another thing that I'm gonna demonstrate is that, you know, as we ran our workshops, we identified the features that we fundamentally needed. Anytime there was something that just wasn't working great, or we identified something that we needed, and we actually ran a lot of tests. We picked up people who worked at companies and teams, and they would actually test this out and give us regular feedback as we were developing this product. So FigJam got developed in front of many of our customers' eyes. So here, what I'm going to do is I am going to pull up my timer. And I'm going to have y'all, let's say 5, and I'm going to have y'all drawing a pickle hugging a tape dispenser. So here we go. A pickle hugging a tape dispenser. So here's the prompt and the timer's off. So if you look up at the top, you should see the timer. It's also in the tab. Right? So you got 5 minutes. Make sure you use it appropriately. I love that you all already instinctively found the colors and you're just off to the races. All right, cool. And just so you know, if you drop a little sticky by your board, you know, you can like let me know your name and what we're gonna do is vote on these as soon as the time is up. So a pickle hugging a tape dispenser. So sometimes we actually run these jam sessions on Twitter where another designer advocate and I will get on a Twitter space and you know we just have like little wind downs for you know fellow designers out there. I love how many of you are immediately going for the smiling pickles, right? So it's like you're thinking about that hug, right? You're thinking about that smile. This is fantastic. You all are so talented. Go figure that I would come to like a UX conference and we just have so many talented artists. Oh my God, Natanya, this is amazing. Okay, in this one, it doesn't really look like the tape dispenser was consenting to that hug. You know, the tape dispenser looks a little bit reluctant. Wasn't. Should always have consent for those hugs. Oh my God, loving this one here. It's like a backwards 9. That's one of those hugs where it's like neither person's trying to let go or not trying to be the first person to let go. That's a good hug. All right, so 2 minutes, 40 seconds on the clock. Remember, you're going to be judged by a jury of your peers. So as y'all are doing that, I'm going to start bringing on the voting apparatus. So don't mind me. I'm just going to drop a little voting apparatus under each one of your bars, drawings. Please no voting yet. We have somebody add more time to the clock. I feel like somebody added more time to the clock. All right. We add these little voters. Voters are going up. Don't hit on the voters just yet. Oops. Oops, I think I voted for someone. Cancel. I don't think I've actually run a drawing session with so many people, so hopefully, you know, everything holds up. So I really appreciate y'all hanging out with me today. Let's see, boom. Seeing some fantastic pickles and some fantastic tape dispensers. We got ourselves a Pickle Rick over here. Add some more vote. Man, this is great. Y'all are doing a fantastic job. And last set of voters up here. I think time is up. I could have sworn. I don't know if I added to my own time. I think we had like a little bit more time than expected, but that's okay. That just means that we're going to get some well rendered tape dispensers and pickles hugging. I feel like we are on the verge of a graphic novel. I want to hear the backstory of these pickles and tape dispensers. I want to know what drives them. What really is their motivation? What brings them delight? That is the name of our workshop here today. What is delight in user experience? I like the ones watching the sunset. They're enjoying themselves. They're having a good time. Here, hold on, this Pickle Rick, there's a lot of anger and resentment taking place here, and that's okay too. Everybody expresses themselves differently, and it's about understanding the needs of your users, however they may feel that they need to express themselves. All right, so we're down to less than a minute. Let's see here. I'm just trying to see everybody. How many? We have a few visitors in here, and the visitors, just so you know, you might not be able to interact with the voting widgets, but that's okay. I will walk you through how I expect to see how you can also add your vote. Okay, we're down to the wire. There's about 20 seconds left. Make sure your pickles are at the level of polish you wish them to be, and that your tape dispensers are, as sticky as they need to be. I guess, in your hug, you got a little sticky. Okay, there we go. The timer's coming, and that's going to be it. So we've have here a beautiful compilation of pickles hugging tape dispensers. and, I like this one. So I'd like everybody to just take a moment, take a look at your peers, uh, you know, see what they have done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give everybody, and we're mostly going on the honor system here, but everyone has the ability to drop, let's say, 5 votes. So where you can divvy out your 5 votes as you see fit. Use the widgets if you are unable to use the widget. So it won't be until next week that a logged out user can use the widget, and that's a technical thing, right? So if you cannot actually vote, go ahead, hit the E key and just hit a little +1. So drop a little +1 sticker in place of your vote if you are unable to vote. So what I'm going to do is just add in another, let's say, minute and a half. Oops, not 13 minutes. Let's do a minute and a half. Let's make it a full 2 minutes. Let's take 2 minutes and get your votes in. So, give out about 5 votes. And if you are unable to vote, drop a little 1+1 sticker. If you don't are unable to generate one, if you look up here at the top, there'll be a little example +1 sticker over here on the top right. I am really impressed by all of your ability to draw such a thing on the fly that nobody's ever seen in real life, right? I've never actually seen a pickle hugger tape dispenser. However, all of you are able to render them with such accuracy and with such delight, right? Name of the talk today. All right, so let's see who are some of the standouts. Okay, by the way, drop your name so I know who created this. Drop your name, and I will, for the winner, need your information because I will be sending off a Figma swag pack. So this is actually, there's stakes. All right, so Chris, you have 15 votes, right? Chris is up there. Let's see, are there any like contenders, right? With the happy pickle and the sunset on the mountains with a little bit of love. All right, any other contenders? Okay, over here we got this one with which looks to be hugging like a tape Pokemon, right? Gotta catch them all, Pokemon. This one, oh my God. All right, so some of y'all gotta show a little bit of love. I know I can't be biased, but this one has actually lifted the tape out of the dispenser, right? So the tape is no longer bound by the treachery of the dispenser, right? It's been elevated and freed, right? Like that's true love, right? It's like that emancipation. All right, so we're at time for voting. Do we have any clear winners? Oof, I think my computer's kind of had it. Let me zoom in. I might have to refresh, so I apologize. We are really destroying this file. We are pushing this file to the limits. Oh no, my file came back. All right, give me one quick moment. Let me take a look at the chat. Yeah, my computer fans are howling right now too. Right. What we're doing is we're pushing that technology, and we're also, um, if someone's gonna buy computers for us, we're proving the need to have one of those new Apple M1 machines, which is kind of great that this is being recorded, so I can like send this to my manager and be like, hey, look, I'm doing a workshop and I need this computer to be a little bit faster. That would be more delightful for me. That would be more delightful from my experience. All right, cool. So here we go. Let's zoom in and let's see where you all are at. Um, who has the most votes? All right, so I think it's between Chris. Let's scroll up. Ooh, over here, the awkward hug, right? You got 12. And over here, I think we have ourselves a clear winner. Ooh, I also want to give a little bit of a shout out over here to Jonathan. There's a nice, it's nice, simple. They look like they're about to kiss though, for real. And then there's the warm hug. This one has a little bit of dialogue in there. I can't let go too sticky, right? You're going in with the full theme. All right. Ooh, wait, here we go. There's another one down here. Let me see. Aaron Ang. right? You're actually making use of some of the FigJam stickies, right? You're ad-libbing, you're riffing a bit. So I think we do have a clear winner in Chris. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull out. I have like a little, let's say, I have a little award that I can give Chris. So this is the Delight Award. Delight Award. And here you go, Chris. All right. Yes, I love the use of those emojis. All right. So, runner up. Do we have a runner up? All right. So, the awkward hug. You're going to be second place. So, I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller. Right. The little delight. And let me see. I'm probably going to give one more as like a special nod. Um, let's see. I'm going to go to the judge's special acknowledgement. I think it's going to go over here to Lizzie. So we got Gil, we got Chris, and we got Lizzie. So this is going to be the judge's special acknowledgement award. All right. So all three of y'all, go ahead and give me a shout at mcardona at figma.com, and I will make sure that you get prizes. So my email's over here. Boom. Thanks for playing. Let me link that. All right, cool. So yeah, so Lizzie, Chris, and Gil, holler at me. All I'll need, and like even if you're international, I can ship it anywhere in the world. Just let me know where to ship your Figma swag pack. Thank you, and I think that was great. Okay, cool. So does anybody have any questions? Let's go to Q&A time now that it's 15 to, and you could ask me anything. You could drop a sticky here. You can ask me about Figma. You could ask me about FigJam. I know I primarily focused on FigJam. It's a little bit more centric on in terms of, like what we're talking about. How do we create authentic experiences? How do we, think about trying to facilitate and kind of create that experience of delight, of surprise, of wanting to share with others, right? And how do we kind of pack that into a tool that's primarily meant for productivity, collaboration, so typically people will use FigJam to facilitate workshops, really, serious work, but also as a space for play, right? How can it leverage both? And that's kind of like what I'm trying to get at here is, as you all become designers, as you start thinking about the products that you work with, how are imbuing it with a bit of humanity, delight, and surprise? Here, let's see. What design tool is used to design Figma before Figma was a reality? And do you guys design Figma products within Figma itself? So yes, Figma is entirely designed within Figma itself. It's kind of weird to see like the Figma user interface. So we actually have a design system called UI2, and it's maintained by like our design system team. So before Figma was even made a reality, I would say that much of it was just kind of like coded out as a proof of concept. And then as it became developed more and more, the tool kind of became more of the central point of as being the development point. So like all of FigJam designed in Figma, all of like Figma currently and future versions of Figma are actually designed in Figma. Funny thing about FigJam is so much of FigJam was speculated and thought out in FigJam. The earliest version of it was just a canvas that you could drop a sticky and drop a shape and just kind of leave a little bit of a marker. It was originally just like a skin of Figma that then became its own product that had its own optimizations that then began to, like take on a bit of its own life. So people who aren't familiar with design programs, how are people who aren't familiar with design programs doing in Figma? Um, so as far as students go, we're still just kind of introducing them. Like in the real world, you actually FigJam became a response for people who weren't super into design. FigJam is a product for product marketing managers, content writers, marketing people. It's a place for people to kind of like engage, right? Figma is a product, we tried to have a lot of those people in the editor, but it was too intimidating for them. So we wanted to start to think about, how can we best serve their needs? And that's one of the reasons why FigJam exists, because, Figma as a product is there to primarily, create designs to generate, a lot of designers want things to be a particular way. In FigJam, you don't really worry about your layers so much, right? You don't really care so much about your border radius or, even like your leading, right? FigJam abstracts a lot of that away from you, and that way it makes it more accessible for those who aren't going to get caught up in those details. So where did I get my awesome lights and green screen? Did my setup take a while to come to fruition? Yeah, I've actually been working on my setup since I was teaching in COVID during 2020, and I basically just took my like personal camera. I bought an adapter for it that allowed it to be like a almost like a streaming camera. My lights from Elgato.com. This is a Blue Yeti podcasting mic. The green screen is also from Elgato.com, and I also have some sound foam pads. So, what is the most delightful design for you? Ooh, that's actually like a really tough question. When I think about delightful design, it's something that's just very like personal that I can have kind of like a relationship with, things that like, like I like to hold on to even after some of its utility has kind of like worn away. The most delightful design that I have is actually a yellow sugar container that was my grandmother's, right? It's like a little Rubbermaid sugar container that my grandmother used to like, and I'm Puerto Rican, and Puerto Ricans, we drank coffee since we were like 2 years old, right? I don't know, that's just like a thing. So my grandmother used to put sugar into like my coffee when I was like really young. I had like a little sippy cup with coffee, believe it or not. Heavily milked, but this little sugar container, she just always had in her kitchen. And it was one of the things that after she passed away that I kept. And so like, actually I keep some of my most prized possessions inside of this little sugar container. And it's a funny little Rubbermaid container. I've never actually seen anything like it anywhere else. And actually that is the most delightful design for me. So like I almost like imbue it with more meaning. Any tips for getting jobs or internships for UX UI? The one thing that I do want to identify is that when you're getting jobs or internships for UX UI, you have to make sure you found a way to represent a bit of your personality in your work. And what I mean by that is not to say like, okay, I'm going to pick some colors that work out for me, but your personality is the way in which you demonstrate and you work through your products, you articulate your work. One of the reasons, if you look over here, that I kind of included this bit of the explanation for like the high five, right? So if you see this like little like high five area, that's the way within Figma we kind of articulate some of our interactions, right? If you look exactly like other people, like your portfolio, when you kind of squint at it from a distance, if it looks exactly the same as somebody else's, it's going to be very difficult to articulate, disseminate. Only include things in your portfolio that actually have impact or meaning, things that you actually want to do. When you do a student class project, it's helpful to follow the teacher's directions, but fundamentally, you need to break away from how the teacher assigned it to you and the work you actually did. So oftentimes you might get, an assignment to do some research, but if the research actually didn't help the progression of your project, ditch it. Find another way to do research. Spend some time making the project less a class project and something that is more for yourself. Also, find some opportunity to collaborate with other students on projects. Even if it is a personal project that is outside of the scope of class, demonstrating how you work with others, but still demonstrating exactly what you did in a project is really beneficial. And it's something that companies want to see, but you don't really have that that much opportunity in an educational space to really kind of create and cultivate those projects. And it's really up to you to kind of determine what those are going to be. So one thing that I would assign my seniors is I would have them work on collaborative books. So they would have to make a print object and they'd have to make an interactive object for the book. And what they would do is everybody would quantify how much of the book that they're working on. So every student might get 3 chapters. And when I say a book, it's a very loose term. So it might end up being like a card deck that informs. It might actually be a zine. It might actually be like a hardcover book that they print out. But then there's also have to be an interactive component, an augmented reality component, because it's all about formatting and disseminating content in a way that is going to be targeted for a specific customer. So what I would do is I would say, okay, design a children's book, design an informative book about data privacy, and how they come up with that content is really important, and how they interact with that content is also important. And I usually try to choose content that is very relevant to them or to their main audience. So if you think about accessibility, if you think about data privacy, you know, if you're going to design content and build interactions or design something, you know, focus it around content that is meaningful, that is also relevant to the field. Sorry, I kind of went on a rant with that one, but hopefully that was helpful. If I had any advice from a former self just getting into the field and design, what would I say? One thing that I would say to my former self is take risks. The times that I've had that I've elevated the most in my career and in life were the times that were like, you know, I chose to do something that I was uncertain about, and that were like, you know, a little bit more risky. There was a point in my life where I decided to, you know, quit teaching and go to San Francisco. And there was a time where I was in San Francisco and I decided to quit, you know, working at a startup and went back to teaching. And taking a lot of these risky moves ultimately put me onto a better path. Anytime I felt that I was like really comfortable, was a time that I decided that I should make a change. If you know, as long as I was like, you know, young, and you know, I wanted to make sure that I was challenging myself and putting myself in a better position. And that even means, you know, trying out different software, learning development, learning new things. If you feel like something is like over your head, you know, take the time to spend a little bit more with it so you can understand it a little bit better. How do you let go of projects or ideas that don't work out? You just got to forgive yourself. You just got to like let it go. If it's, you know, dragging on, if you don't feel good about it, if it feels like work, sometimes you just got to let it go. You got to take it for what it's worth. Oftentimes, this is actually a piece of advice that I gave to a someone that I was mentoring. They were working. They spent a lot of money on this game. They were working with a team, and it wasn't really coming to fruition. And I told them, I was like, "Yo, like, get with your team and work on a really just small offshoot project. See that to fruition, right? Just get it done and then come back to your project. I guarantee you'll learn something." And he cursed me out and he was like, screw that. Why would I give up on this project? You're kidding me. And then we stopped talking for a year. He came back and he was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. We broke off. We did like a tiny little project. We kind of set ourselves away from the bigger one, and it gave us more insights. We delivered something, right? So one thing you need to ask yourself when you're working on a project that's like not quite working out is then give yourself a smaller project, something that's a deliverable, right? It could even just be like a 1 day project. It could even just be like a drawing. Sometimes you just need to finish something to kind of unblock you from something else. If something's really taking too long, or if it feels dreadful, you know, take up the task, like let it go, forgive yourself, you know, just write it off as like time spent. Spend time doing something else that drives your interest. You know, we have this thing, it's called the sunk cost fallacy, where you feel like you put so much time and effort into something that you're going to continue to put more time and resources into it. You know, cognitively, it's hard for us to let go of that, but in reality, we will always benefit by letting go from that and freeing up our cognitive resources. All right, so let's see what else. Um, do I think design ecosystem is saturated? I would say no. This is one of those things where I think it's a pendulum. right? Like so much of like what design is just constantly changing and shifting. Like so I actually got my master's degree in industrial design, right? I got my undergrad in new media, and a lot of what I did early on in my career was like Flash, right? So Macromedia Flash, making Flash games, making Flash content, right? There's always opportunity in design, you know, and this is something that like when you get out into the real world, you're going to realize just how much opportunity there is. What I would say is there's a lot of design debt out there. So like when you think about working at a company and you think about like kind of fixing up what they may already have established, you know, there's just so much more room. So when you start thinking about making design more accessible, when you start thinking about making design more equitable, when you start thinking about, you know, just the design discipline as a whole, you know, and when I'm talking about this pendulum is that sometimes the roles that is there, you know, like there's product designer, there's like content designer, there's like service designer, you know, a lot of these roles they expand out and then they'll combine in and then they'll expand out and they'll combine in. So sometimes you're just going to be a designer, and then sometimes you're going to have a more specific role where, you know, you might be like a computational designer, right? You might be a metaverse designer, right? There's going to be always new opportunities and ways to reframe how you may be using your particular set of skills. So even as a role as a designer advocate, one of the things that I do, I actually spend a lot of time doing motion design, right? Like I actually spend a lot of time creating content for like social. Like I work a lot with our social media manager and actually help produce a lot of those social assets. So I would even say that there's like social asset designer might become a thing, but then there'll be a point of convergence where it all kind of comes back to just being designer again. How do you think one can stand out as a product designer? One can stand out as a product designer by just fundamentally, you know, doing things that you genuinely feel passionate about. You know, one thing that I've genuinely felt passionate about was just, you know, communicating and educating others on design process. And that actually kind of brought me back, you know, into working at Figma, where, you know, I felt like the mantra of trying to make design accessible to all, you know, really spoke to me. And what I leveraged was my history as an educator, you know, my history as being into image formats. I used to work at an image optimization company, and you know, I really leverage a lot of those interests into specifically what I do. So when you look at a company, when you look at what they create, start to think about how that resonates with what your interests are. I think we're at time. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for
Yeah, thank you.
attending.
Cool. Let's just zoom out and see
Yeah,
everybody's working.
and I linked
Cool.
his Twitter in the chat if y'all want to follow him. Highly suggest it. Just amazing content.
Can I just ask one request? Can I just get a big selfie with y'all on Zoom, if that's okay?
Yeah,
As many of y'all, can you just like I'm gonna give y'all a shout out on Twitter. This is like the best session I've had like all week, so I really appreciate it. Y'all have been fantastic. And I don't say that to everybody.
thank
I
you.
genuinely don't.
Thank you.
I usually tell people, I'm like, yo, this was not delightful. All right, so everybody come off. I got to get my little star in there. I got my Steven Universe star.
Here,
All right, hold
maybe
on.
do you want to stop sharing the screen so it could go
Yep.
to like the gallery? There we go.
Yep. All right, cool. So we're in gallery mode. I'm going to turn on my Steven Universe scene. Boom. All right, so let me see. I think we got enough people. We got enough people for a decent selfie. All right, y'all. Happy Halloween. I'm going to do one more. All right, thank y'all, and have a wonderful rest of your conference.
Thank
Have a
you so
wonderful
much.
weekend, and be safe, and you know, find the delight in your life.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. right, that was Miguel or Miggy from Figma. I put his Twitter in the chat again if y'all want to follow him there. Uh, so I guess I'll just talk. So we're not sure if the next speaker's coming, but we'll give them like we'll have like a 10-minute break right now, and then we can regroup after. Yeah, so I'll just put a little timer up. I guess if anyone wants to talk about what they thought about this Miguel or things he talked about,